Hello again, everybody. Well, today we drove down towards Atlanta and we're going to check out the Tellus Science Museum. It's a pretty cool place to check out. A lot of times you'll have kids here from schools, but it's basically a giant science museum that's in between Chattanooga, Tennessee and Atlanta. So we're going to check out this place and see what we can see today. Come on, let's go have some fun. Doesn't look like much, but this is actually a pretty cool museum. You can see that there is definitely some earth-moving equipment here. And there are a lot of people here, so we are going to have to figure out where we're going to park. All right, well, Komatsu is represented here. You have got a great big dump truck. It is truly massive. Even the tire, I'm 5'10", and this tire is probably approaching 8 feet tall. Oh, look. There. This one was used in gold mines in Nevada. It's a 100-ton truck, and it can haul 327. They had to take it apart and bring it over here. And just for you engine heads, yeah, that has got some nice gear to it. But look at this. I mean, this is just truly massive. I mean, you definitely see moving through lots of equipment and moving through lots of dirt. This thing weighs so much they've actually had to support it on its own special stands so that it doesn't just push in all of this pavement. Truly a massive, massive piece of equipment. And they have pulled the ladder down. I believe it's on this side where the ladder would be to climb up there, but yeah, this is pretty impressive. And we haven't even gotten inside yet. Ground control to Major Tom. Wonder how far away that Tesla is at this point. "46 foot tall, 36 foot in diameter."
Hey, I guess if you had to get away from this.
Alright, well, I was going to walk out a little bit further, but it has been raining a lot, and it is very wet. And you can see that there's a big pavilion outside, and for some reason there is a windsock showing wind direction. I don't know if there's something pertaining to that. There is a big power generating windmill, but it's not turning, so I'm guessing it's just there for display. There's the Tellus Museum. So these big ones dump power into the museum, where the house itself can dump out to the grid when it's generating more than it's using. And that is a smaller turbine, so it's not monstrously. We'll see this thing, so it can rotate in the breeze. They just have locked it down. I don't know why they're not. Using it. This is the West Virginia University Solar Style House. Tankless water heater. I mean, this is a pretty cool little house. Now, strike that little. So, still a pretty cool design, though. Let's go in here and take a look. So you've got the laundry, the heater. There's the inverter.
This could actually be someone's house.
You've got a nice, wide open concept. You know what? This would not be terrible. It's not super huge, and it's not small either. And you've got some touch screens to deal with.
There's other people. That is rude. Say excuse me. She's just pushing people. Quit it. They ran that way.
Not off the grid.
Oh, this is our
Huh.
You can go get on them rocks right there. Go get on them rocks. Say, excuse me. Go around there. Sorry.
So like any place, you've got a cool little gift store. The entrance is pretty neat. You've got a whole bunch of entryway thing, but something that's really interesting. It's so-called pendulum. Now this is a small one, so it's having to be assisted a little bit, but basically this shows the rotation of the Earth. As the day rolls along, the rotation of the Earth will actually shift that pendulum to where it's going to knock over one of the little dominoes. There it goes. There's plenty to do with the place. The map shows how big this place actually is. And I think the first thing that we're going to check out is the mineral gallery. Right past the Apatosaurus. Shuttle prototype from 1972. Huh. So there actually was a Cartersville meteorite. Hit a house within 5 miles of here on Sunday, March 1st, 2009.
What did you find?
Bounced through the roof, bounced through some drywall.
What do you say?
There's the meteorite. Got some meteorites. And some of my favorite stuff, some moldavite. It's glass made from meteor impacts. And yes, they actually will let you touch the meteorite, the Campo del Cilio meteorite, Argentina. And you can see these interesting slices of when they take samples of how the insides of the meteorites look. Volcano, Mount St. Helens. And an actual container of the ash from Mount St. Helens. There is a lot of interesting stuff here, way too much for this quick video, but you can definitely see her hadenite is the rare stuff, and that's from North Carolina. And it only comes from North Carolina. There's definitely some interesting stuff. North Carolina seems to have a ton of stuff that you can get too. Rubies, sapphires. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff.
Ruby. Huh?
Here you got opal.
Look in here.
Opal, and here we got fluorite.
I see those. That's an emerald.
Now the camera doesn't really show it, but some of these are pretty amazing looking.
He was in there digging, finding stuff.
And these are all samples from these mines around just the southeast. Bunch of stuff. Out of Georgia, of course. And just in case you wanted to, you can turn the granite cube. Now it is hollow, but Georgia is one of the nation's leading producers of granite. These are all of the different minerals.
Where's the gold? There's the gold. It's up north.
Oh, wow.
Up near Dahlonega.
Yep.
There is a very cool fluorescent mineral exhibit, but unfortunately, it is getting rebuilt. Here's something that's really cool. Now, they don't have samples of everything, but yes, this is the periodic table of elements, and they've got samples of a lot of different stuff in here. Now, obviously, some of that they can't have because it's radioactive, so it's pretty cool. Big chunk of calcite. You could spend hours in here. And there's some very cool samples of gypsum, hematite. And that's an interesting way to see pyrite. And that malachite kind of looks like a caterpillar. Asterism, I don't know if you can see, but it really shows a different pattern in it. Bends the light. Now this sample really doesn't show it, but it is brilliant purple amethyst. All this, I mean, all of these samples are just amazing. If you're a rock hound, you could literally spend all day in here looking at all of the really cool samples of things. I mean, some of this is just absolutely amazing at the details that it's got. Those are interesting crystals. I guess they form that way in cross patterns. That is very interesting. The geology of Georgia. Good old Georgia gold. Now, obviously, the big string of gold is up in the Dahlonega area. And you can see a lot of gold came from it. They even have samples of gold from around the world. Then you have crazy things like a sphere of obsidian. Obsidian's cool, it comes from Mexico. And some of these have brilliant reds and pink hues. And then you get into the different years. Stuff that they have here, and some of these amazing colors. Some of these look like palantirs. Maybe Maryland's rainbow. So this is definitely an interesting angle. Can you imagine being in the helicopter or being in a jet and being right above it as it comes in? Well, there's something you don't see every day. On to the fossil gallery.
Whoa.
So, there was a big shark back in the day. It was called a megalodon. And if the teeth weren't so sharp and they didn't want you to touch it, I could stand in this jaw, and I'm 5'10". Just to give you a little bit of a description, it's pretty big. So sorry for the lights, but the saber-toothed cat. So if you're into the Ice Age movies, Say hello to Diego. And you've seen those kind of other creatures in the Ice Age movie too. Matter of fact, I believe you've seen this one too. There are definitely some interesting things, including the Elasmosaurus. These are more of a swimming creature oriented. And that is a big turtle.
Oops. That's a model.
And that is a big old fish. Touch this if you dare. And then lift. What could it be? Ew! You've got flying. This part of the museum has me petrified. Small, but fierce. Trilobites. You know what? That fish is terrible. Science in motion. And this room is full of some amazing stuff. Really early cars. You've got a model of the Wright Flyer. You've got, I don't know if that's a model or if that's an actual working one, with a locomotive. You've got early motorcycles. And then you've got the world's first automobile, the 1886 Benz patent motor wagon. Sorry about the shadows, but this is interesting. This company sold kits for $90 a kit that would convert your bicycle into a motorcycle. And they really have a really old Indian motorcycle. You can really see that the early ones really did base it off of bicycles. And this looks like a miniature.
I mean, it's
1905 Cagney steam, and this is actually a miniature that runs. I know some people that would love to have one of these. You know who you are. You've got all sorts of stuff from gem panning, fossil digs, to restrooms, to classrooms. Yes, this is an education thing. One interesting thing. Yes, your smartphone is all of this, the world at your fingertips. Now, we all know what the phone can do. We'll leave it to your own imagination, but look at some of this old tech. You've actually got an Edison. Old video cassette recorder. It was a Betamax. That is projector. Old televisions changed over the years from interesting designs. Interesting GPS systems. Did anybody have one of those? Or was it one of those? Of course, if you want to really go far back, it's the Magnavox Odyssey. Now, this will date me a little bit. I grew up with an Apple II. Ran off of 2 5¼ floppy disks. Veritable. Oh my goodness. Is it so? It's the Quick Take. I think it's the Quick Take. Yep, the Apple Quick Take. That's something you really didn't see. Those were early digital cameras. And there's the venerable Mavic. Brilliant in some design and a failure in the others. Huh. That was my first CD player. I remember somebody having that Watchman. Now my Walkman was the Sport, so it was bright yellow and water resistant. '67 Lockheed Jetstar, showing you how the jet engine works. A radial engine from 1950. So basically each one of these has a piston in it, and they would fire in sequence. And as they fired in sequence, it spun the propeller. For the longest time, this was top of the line. As a matter of fact, there are still planes today flying that, although mostly people have gone to this design, which is a Rolls-Royce. And the way a jet engine works is, as the air comes in, it gets compressed, and then they squirt fuel in it after it's compressed, which turns those and generates thrust.
I want to go in there so bad, but I can't.
Jetstar control panel, so things have gotten a little bit high-tech since the 1960s. Helicopter, circa, I don't know, 1960s? Let's see. 1947 was when they first started using it. These are showing the early stuff. So you had the early Goddard rocket, V2 from World War II. That's the German Nazi rockets. And you're getting into the Russian stuff. Then ours, the Mercury Redstone, the Mercury Atlas, the Titan II, the Saturn 1B. But our greatest achievement was the Saturn V. 8.8 million pounds of thrust. And that little thing way up there is the command module, and then right behind it is the lunar module. We use that to get to space. Proton was used in Russia for a while. And then the Soyuz. Now the space shuttle was what we used at the tail end. Now this is the back side. We'll obviously see the other side. And getting into new technology, Spaceship One. The interior part was the actual rocket. The exterior is a plane. So the plane would fly up to certain altitude and then launch the space plane. Now, this is an actual nose cap from the space shuttle. This was part of Space Shuttle Columbia on 11 of the shuttle's 28 missions. This held off 3,000 degree temperatures. So this was built for the Earth to the Moon show, and it's a pretty accurate representation. Now I was wrong, evidently. This is an actual one. And then you've got neat little things like, this is a case to hold the moon rocks, and a hammer. So these would have held the moon rocks to come back from. And you've got interesting things. That is an actual moon rock. This one is actually dubbed the Great Scott. Then they have the patches and the flights for all the different flights that happened.
I think they upgraded them since then, haven't they? Really upgraded them since then.
So this is the size of a Mercury capsule. It is teeny. The interesting thing is that they always talked about that they were worn rather than being ridden, because this thing is only 9 feet tall, 6 feet wide. at the best, and it is teeny. Could you imagine going up into space? Here we've got first orbital artificial satellite. Now, unfortunately, General Motors killed this car. There's a whole little documentary on this car, and this was the first modern electric car. And you could only lease it in California and Arizona, and then some employees of the Southern Company in Georgia could lease it. So this was the EV1. Pretty infamous car. GE killed it. It's a shame to see what they did to it, but if you want to read about that, you can always check it out. It's amazing to see, coming from all these good old antique cars to the EV1, which worked, but the program was killed. Of course, that was of the modern era. This is a 1903 electric. And some of the oldest cars even ran on steam. 1902 Elmore. And here's the locomobile. That is one of the steams that I was telling you about. Then you've got some interesting, yes, these are outboard motors. Pretty impressive to see the underneath of an electric car. Well, you got my big backyard, so this, I am betting, is for the little ones. You have all sorts of stuff that you can do. Yeah, that's just...
And that's a platypus.
Including how to change the filters. All tracks.
Beaver tail just goes thump.
How the feet on bugs work. How these robots are pretty creepy. I bet this one flickers, maybe. Whoever built these robots actually did a pretty cool job. But this all shows how you've got these different science things. So it's pretty cool. And then on top of everything else, you've got a pretty large tree in here. I never did like yellow jackets anyway. Or is that a wasp? And then a robot chameleon. You can change the colors. You can move the eyes, and since a chameleon can move its eyes independently, all sorts of crazy stuff can happen. It's a pretty interesting tree. So these, if you're ever into the mood rings, that can do it. What's inside the tree? It's weather. So I'm guessing it's showing what it's supposed to look like outside. Let's see. Let's do a thunderstorm. Ooh. It's actually a pretty cool thing. Well, guys, that is all there is. Hope you enjoyed my little journey down to Tellus Museum. It's in between Chattanooga and Atlanta. As always, I'm off to go on some more journeys. So until then, why don't you go on some journeys of your own? We'll see you next time.